And slowly open your eyes.
Well, in the past year and a half that I've been practicing the system, I've really noticed my consciousness expanding and a real change in my life. This time, I'm really noticing a strong story about suffering that I think comes from my mother's experience. And I just want to know, how can I make like a big jump through that story of suffering that I carry deep within me?
You know, everyone has this. And you're going to replace it with consciousness because it's an illusion. And the victim, you have to be very present. You know, I noticed when I first started healing, I was always a very positive person, no? And my family, they were very nice, but they had that negative thing, no? Like, oh no, it costs too much, oh no, it's too far, oh no, you couldn't do. Like that sort of behaviour, no? It wasn't on purpose, but it was something they'd learned. Like most parents have that aspect from their parents, and they came from the war and all of that stuff. And it's very much inside of us. Okay? And I used to watch when I was meditating or unifying, and I used to see the quantity of negative thoughts. My behaviour wasn't negative, but my thoughts were constantly negative. And this is the beauty of the facets. You can change that program. And the facets do that. And you get to the point, you can still have the negative thoughts, but they're not your reality. You just witness those thoughts. So where do those thoughts take you? Into suffering. There's something about suffering. It's the intensity. It has a poetry, no? It's very intense. That, oh, yes, and this is going to happen, and that happened, and that. And you have to get beyond that because it's habitual. And you can break it and start believing that only good things will happen. You start trusting, you start flowing, you start believing in yourself, and your life gets better and better and better. And it's the truth. With consciousness, your life only gets better. But there's always that doubt, no? How long can this last? Probably for eternity. Because suffering is just a program. It's a program.
Happens when I'm moving lots of stress. It's as if the program is stronger. And the head gets super stubborn, more than usually. Can you talk about that? Like some tips for that moment?
You need to move. That's the only thing. Because yes, the head starts, but once you liberate the emotion, the head stops, no? So it's the only thing you need to remember. I feel the stress, I move the emotion, and then the mind calms down. Why is that? It's what we learn in the first portal. We learn that when the body's moving a lot of stress, the mind becomes active and moves out on thought. Because the body and the mind are a unit. They work together. So lots of stress signifies lots of mental noise. Okay, when you're very here now, very in peace, the mind leaves. There's just a few thoughts. But when there's a lot of stress or an emotion to move, what happens? The mind goes crazy. And it's always very negative. You know, there's something wrong, it doesn't work, there's something wrong with me, blah, 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 blah. I don't want to be sad, I want to run away, I don't want to be angry. That's when you have to go and move. Yes, because when you're expanded in consciousness, there's nothing wrong, is there? Everything's just flowers and tulips.
Which is the difference in between the heart and consciousness? At some moment I heard you were differentiated, and I understand it as a door, as a gate, but I want to know if you can...
When I talk of the heart, I'm talking about the energetic portal. I'm not talking about your physical heart, the boom, boom, boom with the blood. No, we're talking about this opening. So it's the house of consciousness. You know, the heart's a much bigger brain. And it's in unity. And that energy connects you with everything. So it is consciousness. All of your energetic portals are opening to consciousness. But the thing is, consciousness is everything. It's impossible to understand because everything's consciousness. It's like the pixels in a television. Okay? You look at the picture, but you don't look at the pixels. Well, the whole of creation is consciousness, but you see the pixels united. So you see a picture. You perceive something visual. You perceive something solid. You perceive something multi-dimensional with sound, smell, feel, through your human senses. But in reality, it's all consciousness. It's all pure energy. And that energy I call love consciousness because it's the vibration of love. So, you know, nothing's separate from consciousness. Not even the boom boom heart with the blood. That's consciousness too. But the portals or the chakras, when they open, connect you with all of the consciousness. Yeah. And when you're closed, you have the illusion of being a separate little unit. But as you expand consciousness, you start to realize you're not separate from anything. In fact, everything's the same. And all of creation is for you. Because you are that. Now you're perfectly clear, no? Yeah, clarísimo. Oh, okay, I got it.
During the last years, I had the word to let go very present. I hear more than ever. But I can see it's not very, very clear what is the meaning of letting go. For example, let go of expectations, let fears, let go of ideas. So my question is, how can I do to really let go from the heart?
Well, all the things you're talking about take you into suffering. So you're only letting go of one thing. My need to suffer. That's it. So every time you see yourself attaching, just let go. Move the stress and let go. But have the intention of letting go. You know, people say, oh, I let go of that. But they've got it in their back pocket. Oh, I forgave him for that. But as soon as something happens, boom, you remember when. You never let go. Because we think we can punish people. But when you hold on to resentment, you're only punishing yourself. You can't punish other people, only yourself. So the capacity to let go, quicker and quicker and quicker and quicker, which is no expectations, no attachment to ideas, no ownership, like I marry you, therefore I own you, and you need to do this, 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 and this. Once you start letting go of all of those things, you start to love unconditionally because you feel secure within yourself. We have all these rules and regulations and controls and ideas so we feel safe. But no one feels safe. No one. Why? Because they don't know who they are. And that's the only thing you have to know. Who am I? Once you can answer that, you're free. So just keep putting everything down. Everything. Because it'll go anyway. Everything goes. That's another crazy thing with humans. They go. Everything. It's like in the Why Walk When You Can Fly movie. It doesn't matter how thick the walls are, eventually everything turns back.
We learn that all solutions are within, that all our needs are in our depth, in our being. So, I have a doubt. What role or interest we can have in relating deep with the other one and create connections?
You're a human. Okay, you're having a human experience. And where does our principal growth come from? It comes from inside, but it's provoked by the outside. You know, it's not about being self-sufficient. It's about having a wonderful experience. It's about being intimate. It's about sharing. It's about giving. But having that internal security, that gives you the freedom to be yourself, not change and put on your little masks and pretend you're something that you're not. Free to be you. And within those relationships, firstly with yourself and then with everyone else, you'll find a joy. There's a joy. You know, the people I live with, I love living with them. They're the best people in the world. I don't have a problem with one. Well, in this moment I have a little one with one, but I'm sure this too will pass. But the thing is, it's not that the external is not conflicting the internal. You understand? You're trying to rationalize it. And your ration is so unimportant. It's so limited because it doesn't know reality. Don't get stuck in the intellect. It doesn't matter how brilliant you are. You know, even Einstein, at the end, he decided, oh, well, life in reality is a mystery. Of course, because it's in unity. It's an illusion. It has no rhyme or reason. And this is duality. So you have to just enjoy. Stop trying to create new rules. And this is the problem with spiritual people. They've got all these stupid ideas. Oh, my house has to face this way, and that colour's bad, and I've got to clean my negative energies and put limits against the negativity. And when you heal yourself, that doesn't exist anymore. It doesn't exist. You know, you have to go in, heal, use the outside to give, but also to grow and to love. Because the capacity to love is the gateway to prayer. And once you get to that, where you're actually in unity with creation, you find absolute freedom. But the openness to love is the greatest gift, because it opens you to the next possibility, which is meditation, prayer, not asking God for something. Can I have a Mercedes and a new girlfriend and a better house? I'm talking about that openness to be at one. That's a consequence of extreme love. If you can love extremely, you can get enlightened. You know, I used to love on such a level, it was insane. But I got enlightened. So love, give, open. If you can't do it with a human, do it with a puppy. You know, or a cat. But always try to open more and get out of here. Get your heart broken. You know, break it until it opens completely. And then you give up. You say, okay, now what am I going to do? And that's the perfect moment.
Hi, Isha. Can you talk about the surrendering and which one is the difference or how it relates with acceptance?
Well, it's not the same thing. Acceptance is redundant. It has a negativity, no? It's like, oh, okay. But that's not surrender. Surrender has a clearer picture. It has a clarity. This can be in simplistic things, or it can be to the point where you lose someone. Once you surrender to that, you embrace the person internally. But if you accept it, you're not taking responsibility. It's as if someone did something to you. It's like, God did this to me. Why? Well, I have to accept it. But when I can see the bigger picture, the perfection, and embrace the love internally, then I'm surrendered. It is what it is, and it comes from love. And it comes from here, not from here. You know, this is the problem with religion, because it's an idea. And people say, oh, well, God has a bigger plan. Yeah, but I don't like the bloody plan. But he must have a bigger plan. But it doesn't come from here. You understand the difference? Surrender opens and says yes. That's the difference. And it sees the perfection in whatever's transpiring. And sometimes it's difficult, huh? It's difficult for everyone. It's difficult for me sometimes. But I have the capacity to let go. And that's what you have to learn. To surrender and trust. Yeah?
I want to ask you, and I want you to tell me about the root stress.
The root stress is the separation from self. The creation of fear. And entering into the illusion where we're looking for love. Instead of being connected that we are the source of all love. That's the break. And everyone creates that. That's when the fear begins. And then we build on top of that all the judgments we have with ourselves and the world. And we start to look for our securities externally. And we manipulate, we seduce, we lie, we put on masks, we do what other people want us to do, we abandon ourselves. All that fragility comes from that one separation. The separation from unconditional love. Or God, our divinity. That was a little bit more complex there. But you've got it.
I would like to know a little bit more about you. When you started, if it was as I feel, that is hard, that I feel angry sometimes, and other moments sad, all that process. I would like to know about your story, your beginning.
You know I'm old now. You know, I'm 60. You want me to tell you the whole bloody story? Once upon a time, there was a little girl and she was given up for adoption. And a nice family came and they took her by the hand and they said to her, "You are very special. But by the way, you're adopted." And in that moment, she created fear. And she decided that she couldn't trust the people she loved. And she lived with this constant fear of being abandoned. She was very successful, very good at everything, chronic overachiever, but nothing was ever good enough. I had the most progressive parents. They gave me so much love. I went to the best schools. I had a high social level. I had everything. Everything I did really well because I was like that. But still, I used to compromise everywhere because I was afraid of being abandoned. And everything came from that point. And at one point, I lost 6 people in 6 months. That they died. My father died, my boyfriend died, my grandmother died, my nana died, my mother had a brain stroke, and there was someone else. Who was the sixth? The dog died, yeah. And that's when my spirituality opened up again. Because when I was young, I was very connected. And I knew the truth. And I knew about unconditional love. And I used to get in terrible trouble in church. Because I'd say that's fear, that's not love, that's not what Jesus meant, and blah, blah, blah. I was very annoying, huh? In a sweet way. I was like a good kid. But I didn't believe everything they tell me, you know. And from that point, I started to look for solutions. And then after a final breakdown in a relationship, I decided I couldn't do that anymore. And I had an internal voice that was always pushing me to wake up. Now, I didn't know what that meant. I knew nothing about enlightenment, nothing about spirituality. I was like a bit weird, but not so weird. And everything came from within me. And the system comes from within me. And I had lots of different teachers, but I was very innocent and very surrendered and very desperate. I got sick of suffering. And everything I teach is exactly what I did to get to this point. Now that's a very concentrated version of my life. But it was like that. It was like that. And I want everyone to have the experience I have, because it's incredible. And I'm just a normal modern woman, but I have an incredible experience. But I function in a normal world. You know, I like things that everyone else likes. I like fashion, I like traveling, I like everything. But the most important thing is my consciousness.
I want to know how to trust in my process and to know that I'm doing it right.
You know, the first thing is, you don't need to trust. And I can guarantee you're doing a bien, because you can't not do it well. It's so simple. I can teach a 4-year-old. Okay, all you have to do is think the facets, move your stress, drink water, and get exercise. And when you're walking around, pull yourself into the present moment, yes, and use the facets. And try to focus on praise, love, and gratitude. It's a very simple system. But this is a groove you have. Oh, I'm not doing it well enough. I'm not good enough. Maybe I'm making a mistake. And this is the beauty of teaching kids, because they don't have those thoughts. But adults have those thoughts. But you have to catch them. And stop looking for some proof that it's working. Why? Because consciousness goes in leaps. You'll feel like, ugh, I'm not growing, I'm moving stress, I've never felt worse, maybe I'm doing it wrong, maybe it doesn't work for me, and it works for other people, but it's not for me. And these are natural thoughts. when you're contracted. But then all of a sudden, you have an expansion. How do you know you're having an expansion? Because you don't have those thoughts. And this is why we have the teachers. This is why we have the facilitators. They all teach from their own experience. Because they all went through exactly the same thing. Me too. I cried for 6 months. I saw how much I'd abandoned myself. I had no faith in myself. I didn't think I was in any way anything. I assumed everyone knew more than me, and I was desperate. Okay, so it's just a natural aspect. And you don't have to trust. Because trust is usually fake. All you have to do is just do it. That's it. Obviously you saw something. Something inspired you. Yeah, you didn't come here because the accommodation was cheaper than Cancun, no? Huh? Oh.
My biggest fear is abandonment. And I really notice that these days with unifying, and I see how much I have abandoned myself, and that I'm conditioned to do this again, like right now here. And then I get pretty harsh on myself. So my question is how to be more loving also to this part of myself.
It's just a habit. And that is abandoning yourself. Because you're looking externally. And you're here to heal. You're here for you. And you have to give that time to you. You know, no one can save you. And basically, when we're getting lost in the outside, we're looking for someone to save us, no? Or someone we can save, so we feel important. Whatever it is, it's a program. And we have to, in order to change, we have to do something radically different. You know, I was always in codependent relationships. I was always finding dysfunctional situations. And when I decided to heal, I made the absolute decision to focus on me. Me, me, and me. For the first time in my life. Yeah? Because that's the person you have to live with. That's who you need to be with. That's who you have to love. That's the love of your life. You were born with you, you will die with you, and you will continue for eternity with you. So it's best that you're happy with the situation. No? So do that. And that abandonment, because the abandonment has a feeling, no? It's like a fear, like, and it's almost like a panic attack, especially when you're involved. And you have to get to the point where it doesn't exist anymore, where you can just be with you. Yeah?
When I have moments or opportunities to, I don't know, to stand in my greatness, to do something that I want to do, to shine, or like very soon I can feel like how, like the ego, like feeling better than, or feeling like comes very quickly, no? And I see how I like shy away from that because it feels very uncomfortable. Like I don't want that, or the arrogance, or.
So why can't you shine without being arrogant? I know why. Because you're identified with what you're doing instead of what you're being. And it doesn't, nothing should be different. You know, if I win a race or lose it, There's no difference. Because I'm always giving my best. And if you go into something and you're always giving your best, that's what's defining you. It's not the outcome. And it's not competing or comparing. It's just I'm being the best of me and this moment. But I feel like you're too complicated. You've even got words. You say, oh, my ego. What is that? Oh, I get arrogant. So then I step back. What have you got, a psychologist in your head? Just do what you do. Have fun. Stop being violent with yourself. If you get a bit sort of full of yourself, just stop. Like, simplify the things. You know, it's nice that you feel good about yourself if you're doing something well. Well, I did that well. Yay. That's okay. But it shouldn't be defining you. Like if you do it badly or you lose, oh, I'm a loser. It shouldn't be like that. So stop identifying with the action. Just give 100% all the time. And stop being so critical. Boy, you're so critical. Really. Like violence, stop. My ego. Forget about that word. Just forget it. Yeah, just be loving with you. And whatever you do well, do it well and enjoy. And if it doesn't turn out how you want, use it for more mastery. Is that clear? Crystal, no? Crystal clear. Yeah.
Come visit our webpage for books, movies, and our wonderful retreat centers. Isha's simple yet powerful system is transforming lives around the world.